hello, hello. Welcome, Air Tribe. Tonight we're unpacking the good, the bad, and the downright perplexing decisions we make in relationships. Relationships end. A lot of them, most of them. Sometimes relationships just end. But what if we could learn from them, really learn from them? Tonight, we're performing an autopsy, not on a medical table, but on love gone wrong. Tonight, we're taking an honest look at the causes of breakups. What scars did you carry into the relationship? And how can we avoid making the same missteps in the future? I'm your host tonight. My name is Andrea Oden, and in this episode, we're walking through the coroner's report. We're going to walk through two coroner's report from two of our brave Air Tribe sisters who graciously and generously agreed to share their coroner's report. All month long, we've been talking about breakups and how to get over them, how to move forward, and how to keep from making repeated mistakes. So we're going to examine everything from emotional scars that they brought into the relationship to behaviors that led to the relationship's unraveling. Real talk, so buckle up. Tonight's discussion will empower you to step into your next love story stronger, smarter, and more self-aware. All right, tribe, grab your magnifying glasses and let's take this moment to dig deep into the evidence. First up, we're going to meet Vanessa, who is 45 years old, and we're going to meet Greg, who is 47. Both divorced. Their relationship started as a second chance at love for both of them, but ended just last year on November 15th. Why? Well, the clues are crystal clear once you look closely. I'm going to share my screen so that we can walk through this coroner's report together. All right, so let's take a look. So again, Vanessa's 45. Vanessa is a corporate leader inside corporate America, and Greg was a 47-year-old business owner. The relationship ended on November 15th, 2024. Okay, so let's see. What underlying marks were brought into this relationship? Underlying marks are scars and unresolved issues that each person brings into the relationship. So you may not always know what they are, but over time, you kind of start to see some of the underlying marks that you bring into the relationship and that the other person did. So let's look at Vanessa and Greg. Vanessa grew up as a sensitive, deeply caring individual, but she learned early on to suppress her emotions, adopting the belief that big girls don't cry. As a latchkey kid, she took on the role of parenting for her younger sister, regularly sacrificing her own needs and happiness to care for others. Vanessa developed a self-sufficient, people-pleasing nature, avoiding vulnerability and priding herself on never asking her partners for help. Growing up, Greg faced feelings of loneliness as his parents were never married and they broke up when he was just an infant. So he learned to cope with abandonment and emotional neglect. Growing up, he was never exposed to healthy relationships or effective communication. He learned to keep his feelings and his emotions to himself, because nobody cared. He watched his parents fight about everything, and he learned to avoid arguments at all costs. Right. So let's talk about the evidence of injury. Evidence of injury is the details, the physical, emotional evidence of those past issues that starts to resurface. In this space, we ask you to share 2 to 3 incidents that first told you that this relationship may not be working out. This is arguments, disagreements, fights, or certain behaviors. And so here, Vanessa shares that during an anniversary dinner, she opened up about her feelings of being overwhelmed with taking care of household responsibilities by herself. And Greg dismissed her feelings, saying, "You're so good at handling everything. You don't need my help." This left Vanessa feeling unseen and unsupported in the relationship. The second incident happened on a weekend road trip that they'd planned for months, and Greg spent the majority of the time on his phone, responding to work emails, scrolling through social media. And when Vanessa expressed her disappointment, Greg accused her of being too demanding, which led to an argument that ended with both of them shutting down emotionally. So we put argument in quotes because they never really argued. They both would get upset visibly and then retreat, where Vanessa would become emotional, but still trying to stifle it because she's been taught that. And Greg doesn't want to argue at all, so his MO is always to shut the argument down. The third incident happened when Vanessa realized that whenever she tried to discuss their future, Greg would avoid the conversation or make vague comments like, "Let's just take it one day at a time." And over time, she realized that this resistance revealed a lack of commitment to their shared future. And this started to plant seeds of doubt in Vanessa's mind. So let's talk about the end. The end of the relationship, which is, the forensic details, what actually ended it. So was the end of the relationship caused by one incident, several incidents, and was that intentional in nature? Did either of you make a conscious decision to hurt the other person or do something that you knew going in would hurt the other person? So Vanessa shares that Greg ended the relationship. He broke up with her, but before he broke up with her, he spent 2 weeks really just being emotionally unavailable towards her, making her angry and causing her to explode and blow up so that he could end the relationship. So the lack of communication and accountability is what really blew it all up. They never had an opportunity to grow into a mature relationship, one that had good communication, because neither of them brought that into the relationship, demise of their relationship. Vanessa believes that the relationship died of natural causes because they were not compatible and did not see the future the same way. So she believes that the relationship died of natural causes. So what did Vanessa learn as a result of this relationship? When she put pen to paper and she really started to dig deep, here's what she learned. She learned that they were fundamentally incompatible in meeting each other's emotional needs, despite their shared desire for a loving relationship. Vanessa needs to examine whether she is settling. She needs to confront her suppressed emotions and allow herself to be vulnerable. Greg must work on improving his emotional intelligence and practice active listening without being defensive. So he needs to practice, how do I actively listen without being defensive? Ultimately, their relationship ended because neither could overcome the communication and emotional hurdles necessary for a lasting connection. What Vanessa learned as a result of this relationship, understanding and respecting each other's emotional needs is crucial for healthy and fulfilling relationships. Suppressing emotions and avoiding vulnerability can erode trust and intimacy over time. Emotional intelligence, including active listening and open communication, is a skill that must be developed and prioritized in her next relationship. Settling for unmet needs can lead to long-term dissatisfaction and frustration. Self-awareness and honesty are key to making authentic relationship choices. Healing unresolved personal issues, such as past resentments or abandonment, is essential to building a stronger emotional foundation for both people and their partnership. Thank you, Vanessa, for sharing your Coroner's report with us. We so appreciate you, and thank you for just your courage in sharing with us today. So the next one we're going to see is from Tracy and Stephen. So Tracy is 39 and she is a secretary. Stephen is 40 and he is a truck driver. The relationship ended on January 10th, 2023. The underlying marks, what issues or unresolved issues did Tracy bring to the relationship? So Tracy says, I had a deep craving for love and validation, often prioritizing others' happiness above my own. I always wanted everybody to love me. I enjoyed doing special things for people and ensuring those that I love were taken care of, sometimes to the point of physical and emotional exhaustion. I hesitated to complain or ask for help as I wanted to prove that I could handle everything on my own. I felt compelled to prove my worth by performing in relationships, constantly showing how exceptional I was. My mission was to demonstrate that I was special, worth committing to, and deserving of marriage, often tying my self-worth to this goal of getting married. Coming from divorced parents, I was determined to avoid repeating that cycle, and I did everything I could to keep my partner happy for the sake of stability. Now, she also shared what issues Stephen brought to the relationship. So Stephen wanted to be a better man than his father was. He was determined to work hard and earn the respect of others. Stephen was driven to make sure that people knew he was nothing like his father. She says he loved that I took care of him, but he had trouble expressing his love for me. He often would tell me he wondered why I was with him. Stephen's mother used to do nice things for him, but only when she had done something wrong or was setting him up for some kind of disappointment. Stephen associated nice gestures with disappointment. Stephen also didn't like the fact that I earned more money than he did. He often worked excessive overtime hours just to brag that he made more money than I did. Stephen had issues with his mother. He believed that his mother should have tried to be more understanding to his father's shortcomings. He believed that she should have taken him back when he wanted to come home. So let's talk about their evidence of injury, the 2 or 3 top incidents that first told Tracy that the relationship wasn't working. The first one, she says, was during a heated argument, Stephen threatened to leave her. Overcome with emotion, she says, I broke down, crying uncontrollably as I melted onto the floor. Instead of comforting me, Stephen stepped over me and walked out of the house without a second thought. He returned the next evening as though nothing had happened, offering no apology or acknowledgement of the previous evening's events. The second incident was at a party with friends. Stephen drank excessively and became belligerent. His behavior embarrassed both of us, and he lashed out at our friends and created an uncomfortable scene. I was left to manage the fallout, feeling humiliated and unsupported by his actions. The third one, she says, one Christmas morning, after opening the gift I had carefully chosen for him, Stephen told me he didn't think I deserved a present because of how I had been behaving lately. The day dragged on, and about 11 p.m., he finally revealed a beautiful necklace that he had hidden in the kitchen cabinet. Laughing, he said it was all a joke, and while I smiled on the outside, inside, I felt crushed, wondering how he could be so cruel. Okay. Tracy believes that the relationship ended due to suicide and homicide. Here's why. The relationship ended the night Stephen, drunk and angry, shoved me hard against the bathroom mirror. He left our apartment, and shortly after, I moved out. A month later, he began leaving me messages pleading for me to come back. I returned for 1 week, but quickly left again, this time for good. I believe the relationship ended by homicide and suicide. Homicide because there were moments when his actions felt deliberate, as though he intended to hurt me. And suicide because I stayed, and then I went back, fully aware of who he was. So now Tracy tells us what she learned from this relationship. The first question is, what are you most afraid of? Tracy says, I'm most afraid that a man won't love me and he'll leave me. What have you done to dishonor yourself? She says, because of my fear, I put up with bad behavior and abuse. I dishonored myself, trying too hard to please people. What did you pretend not to see? She says, I pretended not to see that Stephen was very abusive. I made excuses for his behavior because I was afraid of being alone. Yeah. When did you know this was a bad relationship? She says, I knew it was bad the first time we argued and he went out and got drunk. I was sure it was bad when he started yelling and swearing at me and calling me names. What's the truth you're not telling men about yourself? Tracy says, I'm not telling men that I'm insecure and I'm afraid a lot. I am not telling men that I'm sometimes very needy. Okay. What inappropriate behavior did you accept from this man? She says, I accepted abuse on several occasions. I accepted verbal and emotional abuse, and I was sure the physical was on the way. What inappropriate behavior did you give to this man? Tracy says, I cried all the time. I also threatened him with leaving because I knew what it would do to him. Right? What inappropriate behavior will you refuse to accept or tolerate in the future? Tracy says, I refuse to accept any and every form of abuse. Okay, so those are our two coroner's reports. So, I know sometimes watching someone else's coroner's report is, it causes us to be judgmental, right? And what I want you to know is that we all learn to love from our foundation. We all have a backstory, and we all learn to love from our families. our mothers and our fathers. Girls learn how men show love from their fathers. And they also believe somewhere that that's love and that's how my man should love me. Yeah. And little boys learn how to love from their mothers in two spaces. You know, how their mothers show them love, but also how their fathers treat the mother. Now, we all grow up and we make decisions and we make choices, but you have to understand that the foundation is set very early. And most people will come back to their foundation, even if they're doing the work. If they get stressed enough or pushed far enough, that's where they're going to go. So when we both do our work, we both understand who we are and what we need. That's what makes a relationship. Now, nobody's wrong. How you feel and how you need love is not wrong. I have really great friends who have amazing relationships that honor both of their insecurities, both of their challenges, their backstories, and they have figured out how to make it work. So I don't want you to see a coroner's report or hear some woman's story and think that there's something wrong with her, or that could never be me. Because in truth, it could. In truth, if somebody hits your foundation and they show up a certain way, that's how it happens. Because no abuser hits you on the first date. No narcissist is going to complain about you and tell you what an awful person you are on the first date. It's a process. I want you, as you're putting your coroner's report together, I want you to be honest with yourself. Nobody's going to see it. So you can be honest. I shared a couple weeks ago that I have a coroner's report for every man I've ever been in a relationship with as an adult. And it has helped me tremendously, because when things get weird inside of the relationship, I go back and look to see, is this history repeating itself? Am I doing the same things? Not about the man, but about me. What am I doing? Am I repeating some of my bad behaviors? Am I allowing some of the things that I've allowed in the past that didn't serve me well? So that's it for tonight. Those are our coroner's reports. And, you know, I want you to think about your coroner's report. Think about your relationships. You know, if you have not downloaded the journal, it is absolutely free of charge. We're making it available inside the Air Tribe. If you are a female leader and you are not inside the Air Tribe, you are doing yourself a true disservice. It is where we come together and provide resources, classes we have coaching opportunities with some of today's top coaches inside the corporate arena. We have everything that a female leader will need in business and in life. So if you have not joined the tribe, please click the link below or the link in the bio, wherever you're watching this from, and be sure to do that. So a takeaway that I want to share before we end our time is love isn't about proving your worth. It's about mutual love, mutual respect. And it's about emotional security. I had a conversation with a friend of mine who is a therapist, very renowned therapist. One of the things he said to me that stuck out, he said, Andrea, you need a man who makes you feel secure and safe. But I knew that, right? Because that's normal. But what he said was, here's what I want you to think about when you're dating. This man has your life in his hands. Can you trust him with your whole life? Is he the person that no matter what happens, I trust him with my life? And he said, because that's what happens inside of a marriage. Inside of a marriage, two people trust each other with their lives, because whatever you do affects him and whatever he does affects you. So you could blow up his whole life or he could blow up your whole life. Do you trust him? And that was like the light went off, the heavens opened and the choir started singing. And that's the question. Another question that he shared with me was, ask yourself, when you're dating somebody, you're in starting this relationship, if somebody said to you, you are just like him, would that be a compliment or an insult? And at the time, I was in a relationship, and it was not a compliment. If someone were to say that to me, it would not have been a compliment. So these are little things that stop us from really just kind of wasting time. Last week, my granny says there's a lid to every pot, and it doesn't work if the lid is too big or too small. So send the man to find his lid and you go get your pot. So what I want to share before we end our time together, I really, really want you to know that there's nothing wrong with you. People will tell you to do all kinds of weird stuff, like lowering your expectations or not saying some things. Don't tell them that about yourself. And the truth is, the more honest you can be with yourself, and the more honest you can be with a potential partner, that is the best chance that you could really have for a successful relationship. And you want to know early if this is going to work. You don't want to spend years with somebody and you're pretending to be somebody that you're not. He's pretending to be somebody that he's not. And one day the real you shows up and the real him shows up and everybody feels like they've wasted their time. Bring the real you to the table. Share those things, as early as you feel safe. And if you are not safe for a long time, if you're still not able to share those innermost parts of you, the things that you desire and really need in a relationship, it's probably not the one. So remember, we don't get to tell people how to love us. We don't get to demand that they love us a certain way. What we do get to do is we get to see how they love. And then we get to make a decision based on what they're offering. Is this an offer that I choose to accept? And so ladies, that about sums it up. Next week, we're going to talk about the actual breakup conversation. So come back next week. Check us out. Join the tribe. We would love to see you inside the tribe. We also have a Facebook group that's by the same name called the Air Tribe. You can look us up in Facebook groups. We'd love to have you join. That's where we continue the conversation every single day. Check out our website, theairtribe.com/join. We'd love to have you inside our free community. God bless you. I'm wishing you the kind of love that the greatest romance stories are written about and made into Netflix movies. I'll see you soon. Bye.